Hi everyone, welcome back to another webinar. This is the third and final Canva webinar for this series, and we've had lots of great feedback on the last two, so I encourage you to go back and watch those. One of them was the Canva Bare Basics, and one of them was Canva for social media. And this one is diving into some more practical, everyday uses of Canva and its features. So we're going to be deep diving into three specific features today. And if you're the type of organization or individual that's making flyers, social posts, slides, newsletters, or anything like that, these features are worth knowing. So I'll show you where all the tools are, how they work, and most importantly, little mistakes to watch for that are easy to just brush over. So the three things that we're going to dive into today are resizing and adding different sized pages to your design so that you can design across multiple purposes. For example, maybe you're starting with a social post, but you also need it to be an email banner or a Facebook event cover, or you need a flyer, or maybe you need a notebook or a magnet or something like that. I'm going to show you how to create one design and then transform it into all of those coexisting designs in your suite. So we're going to work together to make sure that you've got a workable suite and you know how to transfer your design across many different sizes. And then we're going to look at adding a QR code. Now, it may sound simple, but there's actually some nuances that I would like to dive into about how to do this through Canva, how to use their app well to do that and to make sure it doesn't just look stuck onto a page. And then we're going to go into some do's and don'ts of QR codes. And again, this may seem simple on the surface level, but there are some things that people skip over quite often. And then last, we're going to look at effectively sharing and downloading your designs, because again, if you just do the bare minimum, you click download, you're probably not going to end up with the best file that you can possibly get for sharing your design. So we're going to take a deep dive into that. So let's head over into Canva. Okay, we're in Canva now, and as you can see, we're starting with just a single Instagram post, and this is a promotion for an event that we actually do have coming up here at CMAA. So we're using this single Instagram post and we're going to work together to translate it into a few different size designs. So we're going to add just two designs to this to start off with. We're going to add a Facebook event cover and then a printed flyer. So those are two real life practical things that we might use to promote an event. So let's get started. So we've got this Instagram post, and that's great. I've got it labeled Instagram post down here, but let's start by adding a flyer on. So there's a couple of ways you can do this, and Instagram is a great place to start because it's almost square. It's fairly easily translated into a landscape and a portrait design, and that's something to keep in mind when you are creating a portrait design. From a portrait design, it'll be a little bit easier to work with, but when you're going portrait to landscape or vice versa, you'll need to do some editing to do with how everything sits, the spacing, everything like that. So we can see a resize button up here. Now, this is one way to do it. It's the way that Canva has traditionally used, but it's actually not my favorite. But I'll give you a quick demonstration of what this button actually does. So if we click this resize button, it will pop up with some suggested things to resize to, and an A4 flyer is actually there already. So that's one of the ones that we're going to do. But you can also browse through lots of different social media types, lots of different printed resources, banners, postcards, that kind of thing. And you can also search. But another thing that I want to point out in this resize button, if you're ever not sure what the size of your design is, you can check by going to this custom size button. So I clicked on custom size and it's showing me that this design is 1080 by 1350. And so if you ever need to check, that's where you go to check it. And then going on from that, if you ever need to put in custom dimensions, this is again where you'll do that. You might need to do that if you're on a website, for example, Humanitics or something like that, and they're asking you for a specific size image. This is where you go to do that, and you can do centimeters, millimeters, inches in here as well. Every single time will translate it back to pixels, but you can start with a centimeter measurement. Okay, so let's show what resizing through this avenue does. So we will resize it into a flyer. So we're taking this Instagram page and we want it to be in the size of a flyer. So I'm clicking A4 flyer, and we will go copy and resize. So you can resize just this design, but it would replace the original page, but we want to duplicate it, not replace it. So we'll copy and resize. It'll take its time to think about it, and then it will open us and prompt us to open the design. So we'll click open flyer. So as you can see, it's opened up in a new tab. It's a completely new document. The Instagram, the original page, is not in this document. They're two separate documents. So that is one way of doing it, and that's a great way if you're creating entirely different elements. So next, I'm going to show you the way that I prefer to do it. It keeps everything in one place, and it allows you to have every single different avenue of promotion in one place. And this is quite a new feature for Canva, as I said, so it's really exciting to be able to do this. So you can add a page by just simply adding the plus button, and it will add a duplicate sized page of the page before it. But that's not what we want to do in this case. We want to add a flyer. So we're going to come over to this little arrow and add a page type. So again, it pops up with lots of different recommendations. A flyer is something that you would print, so it's under the print section. Hopefully it pops up right up the top because that's what we've just been looking at, and it does. But if not, you can search flyer and all of the different flyers pop up. So we're going to do, again, a flyer portrait A4. So as you can see now, that's added a blank page, an A4 blank page. And so let's repeat that process, and we'll do it again for a Facebook event page cover. And so we're going to go into social media, and I'm sure it's in here somewhere, but it's not up the top. So it's just there, but we will search for Facebook, and we will go back down to Facebook event cover. But there's lots of options here, which makes it really, really handy. Okay, so we've now got our Facebook event cover and our flyer ready to go. But as you'll notice, they are blank pages. So what we need to do is we need to get the content from here and copy and paste it onto the other pages. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to drag to select it all. I'm going to Control C to copy and then Control V to paste it onto our other pages. Now, as you can see here, the A4 flyer, though it's a bit off with the spacing, it doesn't need much tweaking. We can just space it out a bit. But coming over to the landscape Facebook event cover, there's a lot of negative space. So we need to fill out this space somehow. So we'll work through how you'd actually, or how I'd actually tweak this. And as we go into this process, we need to actually have a think about who's seeing this, what's the purpose of this design, what does it need to achieve, what's the goal. Now, for this one, the Facebook, the goal is actually to grab people's attention because the details of the event are actually housed in the Facebook event itself. It's got the date, it's got the time, it's got the place, it's got the heart behind the event. So all that this graphic actually needs to achieve is to provide some visual identity and to grab the attention of the audience. So this bit about the date and time actually is not relevant for this graphic. So we're simply going to delete that. Now we have these three elements remaining. I will opt to keep this writers, performers, musicians, filmmakers, visual artists, and designers because that might grab the attention of someone if they are in that field and looking for things. It might just be an attention grabber. So we'll leave that bit in for now. I might make it bigger and put it across the bottom like that. So now we're left with these two elements to to work together and fill this space. Now, as we can see, these are both in themselves landscape elements. So we're going to have to figure out a way to fit all of these things on the page, take up the right amount of space, and not make it overly cluttered or overlapping. So I want the name of the event to carry quite a bit of visual weight. So I'm going to make that quite big here. And obviously that's now overlapped the image. So I'm just going to move that to the side for a minute. And I'm thinking I might make the image might make it more portrait in its style and a bit tall and skinny like that. And I'm already liking the way that that's filling out the page a bit more. So I'm just going to have a little bit of a play around with this. And if you feel like what I'm doing is lost on you, the resizing, the drag and drop, that kind of thing, I encourage you to go back to our first Canva webinar where I talk you through these kind of basic movements of Canva. Okay, so I'm already liking the way that that looks, but I'm not liking how this line is sitting across the bottom. So I'm actually just going to take it up and spread it over these two lines here. And that is looking quite a bit better to me. I'm just going to space it out a little bit more, make this one a little bit longer. And right now I'm not aiming for perfection. I'm just trying to give you a good understanding of the premise that just because you've clicked resize doesn't mean you're done. You have to work at it a little bit and change around things. And that's normal, and it's actually a really good practice to get in the habit of doing. Okay, so I'm really happy with that. It's not feeling too cluttered to me. It feels like it'll still grab everyone's attention, and the spacing is much more readable than it was before. So that's our Facebook event cover done for now. So let's move on to our flyer now. So this is looking pretty good as is, but it brings me back to the question of what is this trying to achieve and who will be reading it? So I'm imagining this flyer for this type of event is going to be pinned on notice boards, maybe at churches, maybe it'll be posted to people, that kind of thing. But it won't be sitting alongside a caption or a Facebook event post, so it needs to contain all of the information that the viewer needs to absorb what they need to absorb about this event. So what's a good way to do that? A QR code. So we're going to adjust this design to make space for a QR code. So we still need to keep all of the existing elements on here, but we're going to need to move them around a little bit to make room for that. And so I'm going to do that for just a minute. And while I'm doing so, I'm just going to talk you through kind of the design premise of what I'm doing. So my thinking going into this is that I'm going to keep this as is, but I want to squish it a bit. So the text will have to get a bit smaller, which is okay because we're going from a small Instagram post. This is A4, so we're not worried that the text is getting smaller. It will still be readable to make room on this side for a QR code. So I'm just going to start by making everything smaller. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make these lines a bit smaller because that's actually what's taking up a lot of the space here. So I want to make sure I'm keeping it straight in line, 0 degrees, and I want them to end at the same place. So I just will wiggle it around until I get that pink line there, and then I can drag these back on in. Now that's looking good to me, but again, now that that's smaller, the space below is looking a bit awkward. So I'm going to put this line over 2 lines, and I'm just going to increase the line spacing a little bit so it's a bit more readable. And I'm going to left align it. Now to me, that's all looking good. I feel good about this, the sizing of this, the text size still feels readable, and it still carries the right amount of visual hierarchy for me. So this is still what my eyes come to first, and then down to who it's for. So we want the when and the where, and then the who it's for under. And we've got this great space left for the QR code. So, okay, it's QR code time. And the way that we find QR codes Okay, we've got our 3 designs. We've got our Instagram post, our flyer, and our Facebook cover. The next step that is important not to skip is the labeling of them. So I'm going to go to the grid view down here, and I'm just going to name them the flyer and the Facebook cover. So now when we download them, we'll have an idea of what they are at first glance. So let's start with downloading the Instagram post and Facebook cover. Now they're downloaded as the same sort of thing. They will be downloaded as images, not PDFs or anything like that. And it's important to have a good understanding of how to share and download, and what to download and what means what, because it can be complex and it can mean the difference between a really clear or a blurry graphic. So let's dive into this big wide world of share buttons. So you can see this share button up in the corner, and this is a big panel that you'll come across, and the 2 that we're going to look into today is this download button and this public view link button. There is more to look at and lots of apps that are compatible with Canva. You can have a look into it. You can download straight to Dropbox or Google Drive or take it over to PowerPoint. So have an explore. You're not really going to break anything by doing this. So have a play, but today we're going to dive into this public view link and download. We'll start with public view link, and another way of saying that is sharing it. So what a public view link is, it's a way to share your design through a browser with someone. They won't have to log into Canva or anything, but it also means you don't have to download it. So I'm going to show you exactly what this looks like now. Let's hypothetically, you have a colleague called Susan who needs to proof your design, make sure you haven't got any spelling mistakes before you send the flyer to the printer. So you're going to grab this public view link and you will click create public view link. And so it comes up with this Canva link here. You'll click this copy button and you'll flick this link to Susan and say, hey Susan, here's the final designs. The second one is the flyer. Would you please proof it? And Susan will get this link, and I'll just paste it into this browser here. And this is what Susan will receive. So it's a no login. You can send it to clients. It's a great way of sharing things without actually making people download anything, especially big files and videos. This is a great way to share that kind of thing. They don't have to log in. They can just view it. It's really easy. You don't have to worry about losing quality or anything like that over email. So you can just use the arrows to go between designs. And Susan might say, oh, you've forgotten a full stop, or the dates are mixed up, and you can make those changes without downloading and then re-downloading, that kind of thing. So this is a really, really great tool. I use it all the time. I say, hey colleague, these are my first few drafts. What do you think? Which one's your favorite? Which one should I explore a little bit more? Or here's the preview of the video. And I especially love it for sharing videos, because sending videos over email can get really, really tricky with size limits and that kind of thing. And even file limits for PDFs are really easy to exceed in email. So this is a great tool, this sharing tool. I love that you don't have to expect anyone to log in or anything like that. They can view it from a browser. They don't need an app. So I really encourage you to just try using this feature with your team, with your sales associates, with members, whoever it is. I encourage you to try and use this link a little bit. And so the link will continue to exist. You only have to create it once, and it's the same link throughout. You can also use this tool if you have Canva Pro to notify you when it's accessed. It won't always give you the name if the person isn't logged into Canva, but most of the time it will say, Susan accessed this design, and so you can keep a track of who's actually looking at it and how many people have looked at it. And this is helpful if you've got a report or something that you're waiting on everyone's feedback from. You can keep a track of who's looking at it and how it's going. So that is public view links. And now we've got sharing. So let's look into Facebook cover and Instagram post first. So we've got JPEG and PNG here. So for images, it's always one of those two in this case, but it is a bit confusing, the difference between them. So again, we're going to go back to my cheat sheet and we will have a look and a talk through what the differences are and what we should use in this case. So I'll just go back here. We've got our PNGs and JPEGs. So PNGs are when you have something that's got quite fine detail, when the image quality is high. They do support transparent backgrounds. So if you've got a logo or something like that that you need a transparent background for, if you've got graphics, so something that's got a lot of text and images on it, the trade-off is that PNG files usually are larger. They take up a bit more space. And then JPEG is best for photos. So it makes files a bit smaller by reducing the image quality. It's not, you usually can't notice it, but you will see that reflected in the image size. And it's great for photos, web images, email attachments, that kind of thing. The trade-offs for JPEGs is that they don't support the transparency, so can't be used for logos and that kind of thing. And it can look blurry if you really compress it a lot. So the cheat sheeters use PNG for logos, screenshots, graphics with text and transparent backgrounds, and then use JPEG for photos, website images, social media photos, and smaller file sizes. So with all of that in mind, I hope we've all clocked that PNG is going to be the best for this kind of graphic. So let's head back over to Canva and we will export these as a PNG. So we are on the download panel. It's automatically popped up that it suggests that you download it as a PNG. Leaving the size the same is fine. That just means it's a standard PNG size. If you need to blow it up for any reason, maybe you're putting it on a big screen or something like that, you can do that here, but most of the time just leave it as one. And then it comes down here and it tells you which pages it wants you to download. So we want page 1 and we want page 3, but we don't want page 2 here. So we just deselect page 2 and click done. And now we know that it's downloading as a PNG. We don't want a transparent background because we want that brown background, and we want it to download pages 1 and 3. So we'll click download. It'll pop up in a second with a download screen where we're going to download it, what it's called. So we're going to call it the Facebook cover and Instagram post. And you can choose where you download it. And in this case, it's downloading it as a zip file because there's 2 that we're downloading. If you want to avoid that, you can download them one at a time. Okay, so that's completed. Now we'll move on to the flyer. So we're going to go through the same process again, except this time we won't be exporting it as a PNG or a JPEG because it will be printed. So it will be exported as a PDF. So we've got 2 options here, PDF standard and PDF print. Now, because this will be a printed document, we're going to choose PDF print. But if you've just got a document for sending over emailing, for a report or something like that, PDF standard is the way to go. But because this would be something that's printed, we're going to go to print. Now, the only difference is the way that the kind of back of the PDF is formatted, and it also gives us printing color options. So these are getting into some finer details. And usually if you're working with a professional printer, they'll tell you about the settings that they want from you. They'll tell you if they want crop marks and bleed or if they want the PDF flattened. I would say, as a blanket rule, I always click tick to flatten PDF. That just makes it all one layer. It means that nothing can go wrong in the printing where something pops up in front of the other thing or size goes wrong or anything like that. So blanket rule, I always flatten PDF. Now, select pages, we don't want to print to make page 1 and 3 into PDF, so we're going to deselect those and just select page 2. So we'll click done there. We're downloading page 2, and the color profile is what's important when you're printing. If you're just printing from the office using a standard kind of Canon printer, it doesn't really matter what color profile you use, but especially if you're sending it to a professional printer, always go with CMYK. So we'll click that, and then we'll click download. And so again, it'll ask us what to name it and where to save it. So I'll just do that quickly, and then we'll be able to see it in our files. So that's automatically saving it as the flyer because that's what we named it as before. So we'll save that now. And now you'll be able to see that we've got our flyer PDF and the zip file. So we've got our Instagram post and our Facebook cover there, and we've got our PDF flyer ready to go there. So those are the main things that we are going to be looking at today. So I'll bring us back to Canva, but to wrap up, I just want to encourage you that these are just 3 of many, many, many Canva features that and apps and things that you can play with, but they are things that I use all the time, and it's really important to get right. It's just the practical side of Canva coming into real life action. So I hope that this has been self-explanatory and you've learned something. And please let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to help you. Send me an email or leave a comment below or anything like that. I'd love to help you. So good luck with your Canva endeavors. Thank you so much for joining this series. If you'd liked it, we'd love to hear why and what you'd like to hear more of. So yeah, let me know. Thank you so much for listening and being here today. And we'll see you for the last webinar of this series, the social media strategy number 3, in just a couple of weeks.